good evening. I'm so happy to be back here, but let me start by respectfully, please hold on to respectfully saying this. You are not that special. I'm so sorry, you're not that special. You're unique maybe, but you're not that special. Your mothers lied to you, all of them. So, you're not that special, but is that necessarily good or bad? In the next few minutes, I want you to come with me on a self-questioning trip that requires only one thing. Leave your ego aside for 15 minutes. I think that's possible. So why take the trip? Because I'm convinced that you can live a much happier life if you only make a few simple choices. So I've worked with thousands of people over decades, and I've been observing and studying human nature. What I've seen is that despite different circumstances, we all seem to have pretty similar problems, and they're not that original either. Who we are, though, is defined by the way we handle those problems and challenges. Fundamentally, we all eat, sleep, reproduce, have some wins, have some losses. We have dreams, vices, and then we die. And as for problems, we all seek human connections and belonging. We all struggle, subconsciously or consciously, to understand and connect with ourselves and others. We all worry about loved ones. We all worry about our mental and our physical health. We all want our needs met and our wants granted. Some of us in the course of our life, some of you in the course of your life, will actively care about the greater good and do something about it. But along this axis, we all risk to go from one extremity to the other at some point. At the risk of sounding cynical, I'm only oversimplifying to make this point. We are not that different either. So there is a grandeur, though, in being just an average, mediocre being without expectations of being special and getting constantly disappointed because reality proves you wrong. Whitney Hanson, an exceptional contemporary young poet, puts it very, very beautifully. And these are her words. I think we spend too much time being afraid of our mediocrity. We don't want to sing too loudly in case anyone's find out we don't have a voice like glass. We don't want to write music because we aren't Mozart. We don't want to dance. We don't want to paint because we aren't Picasso. We don't tell people that we love them because our voice might shake when we say it. We try to be pretty criers, and we don't dance because we aren't that good. The reality of our humanity is that we are all a little bit average at a lot of things. The truth is that we are not that good. So stop holding yourself back from enjoying the things you love because you're not a prodigy at everything. Scream a song at the top of your lungs and confess your love and let your voice be shaky. Cry big, ugly tears. Dance really badly. Because life is too short to be scared of being human. So when we are brought up to be special, you are brought up to be special. You're expected to do extraordinary things, to form extraordinary relationships, to live an extraordinary life and leave behind an extraordinary legacy. And this is stressful. By the way, you can, and you actually do, because your life is extraordinary. The problem is that our internal bar is artificially and without reason set so far high that it doesn't allow us to enjoy anything that is not filtered, polished, Instagram-worthy version of reality. What a major loss. How did this happen? Back to the beginning, mothers, the person we all love to blame. Well, especially Greek ones, but I'm kidding, there's always the fathers as well. And as if that was not enough, along came the self-esteem movement, and what evolved to the gentle parenting. We somehow bought into this idea that in order to build self-esteem and self-confidence into our kids, we should always praise them, we should keep them from taking risks, we should protect them from making mistakes and get it rejected or hurt. Instead of teaching our kids boundaries, resilience, and hard work as a means to achieve goals, to be happy, to be confident and fulfilled, we try to prepare the path for the children instead of preparing our children for the path. We gave them participation trophies, undermining excellence, and we told them that it's the intention that counts and not the result. Of course, that's a deeper philosophical matter, but I will ask you the same questions I asked my 13-year-old son when we had the mere conversation. So if your intention is to graduate, but you fail the exams, are you going to get a degree? Nope. If your intention is to make a living and care for your loved ones, but you never show up for an interview, you never take up a job, will you be able to make a living? No. And my favorite question, if my intention is to be faithful and have a beautiful family, and then I cheat, am I still going to have my beautiful family, especially if my husband finds out? I don't think so. So we comfort instead of correcting, we soothe instead of supporting, we keep repeating, you are enough. And we forget that this can easily be interpreted as you don't need to strive for improvement, for growth. We want to be friends with our kids and not ruin our relationship with them. So we pass the responsibility of their mental, emotional and social upbringing to tutors, somebody out of the house. In the name of kindness and compassion, we avoid telling them the truths, especially the truths that hurt. Out of good intention, we parents, we put our kids' needs above everything, and we forget that when we are left depleted, we stop being the sturdy leaders and the solid role models our kids need to feel safe, protected, and motivated. The second parameter in all this is validation therapy. Therapy about emotions and hidden traumas that we did not know we have. The definition of normal and thus accepted has shrunk so small that no one fits in there anymore. Have you noticed? The spectrum of mental illness right now is so broad that everyone that I know, everyone you possibly know, myself included, we all have some kind of disorder, yes or no? Have you noticed? And in our attempt to heal as a society, I think we may have pathologized being human. And although diagnosis of course offers a certain relief, say if you have ADHD or dyslexia, you get relief to know that you're not broken, you just have this. And it gives a common understanding and some basis, some symptoms or behaviors so that we can start healing. But I often witness a negative effect that is very, very similar to any kind of labeling. So people get the initial relief, but then they don't push forward, they don't get the drive to work on it, to work through it. They carry their syndrome as a permission and as an excuse to just keep doing what they were doing before, to just be the same. And of course there is trauma in life, of course, but have we overextended its definition? In a culture where every bad experience can be confused with trauma, where psychologists, therapists, us coaches urge people to just be yourself, to you're special, you are enough. Egotism isn't just tolerated, it's very often rewarded. So in this case, what kind of humans are we raising? We grew into this astonishing and dare I say completely unsustainable version of society where everything is an insurmountable deep wound and a problem and a trauma or an attack, instead of just being part of life. The space for being simply human, that means flawed, uncertain, but still okay, has nearly disappeared. Many researchers in the recent years have made the connection between between therapy and family estrangement and egotistical behaviors. There are even studies, you can look up Pahitis et al., for example, that verify or suggest actually that childhood memories can be distorted through therapy, or they can be re-evaluated in a distorted way. Have we that way contributed in the creation of this victimized, traumatized, narcissistic era that seems comforting at first, but it leaves us weak, gaslighting ourselves and others? As a coach, I'm often asked this question. Are you anti-therapy? No, I'm not anti-therapy. Actually, I'm pro whatever works for everybody, as long as it doesn't mess with me, and as long as it actually works for you. Truly works though, not just strokes your ego. I do, however, concern myself with the science itself. When building the science, I wonder, did we rely too much on Freudian principles? Did we follow the wrong guy? I mean, Freud is great, but did we? How would therapy in society in general would have shaped the society we live in today had we followed some other guy? Let's say Jung, my personal favorite, or Adler, or Erickson. Have we left unchallenged the science of shaping people's psychic to the detriment of their capacity to navigate challenges, to connect with others for some greater good? In an era where everything changes so fast, including our behaviors, our view of the world and ourselves, is the science up to date? Have we, mental health professionals, caught up with the speed of our reality? And finally, of course, we have social media as a very interesting parameter. Multiple studies have found that social media use is linked with both types of narcissism, the grandiose and the vulnerable. In other words, the more people use social media, the more likely they are to express or to have narcissistic traits. What they do, they curate the posts, they exaggerate them, they only post at their best. When they look at their best, they are at the best, with the best people, with the best environment. They become obsessed with controlling how other people see them. They compare, and they win. As parents now, us allowing our kids to decompress in front of the screen, I'm a parent, I have done it, I confess. In reality, it increases the risk of escapism, of anxiety, of disorders, of mental illnesses, attention issues, self-image, self-harm even. The narcissist refuses to face the truth. The narcissist seeks escapism. He's insecure. He needs to dominate. He needs to be validated and admired at all times and by all people. The narcissist doesn't look for authentic relationship because he lacks empathy. And this is why, because of this lack of empathy, the narcissist can never truly love another. The question in my head is, can a narcissist truly love themselves? Most narcissists do not truly know they are narcissists because of this profound lack of self-awareness and empathy that prevents them from recognizing their own flaws and shortcomings. So it's difficult for them to recognize the harm their actions inflict on others. However, we have some narcissists that they're intellectually capable to understand that they exhibit these traits, but they also typically lack the emotional depth, the insight, the self-reflection needed to connect my actions to the result of my actions, to the negative outcomes of my actions. Instead of introspection, the narcissist will often project blame to others, and they will justify it as necessary or normal. And if they do look inwards, it's with a very selfish and egotistic view. Now, what is the antidote to that? Could esocentrism, I hope you've heard of this word, it's a very odd word and theory that I came up with about a decade ago, could esocentrism be the missing antidote to narcissism? And the key to rebuilding resilience, meaning, and true connection in a self-obsessed, yet very, very lonely and depressed age? I believe it is. I truly believe it is. Esocentrism is a concept of self-alignment in which the self is one's center of consciousness and agency, but rather than being self-absorbed, one uses this centeredness to switch perspective, to expand awareness, and to contribute outwardly. It involves first solidifying your inner foundation, so your values, your orientation, your views, your self-care, your self-esteem, and from there, operating in the world with kindness, moderation, empathy, and expansion. In other words, esocentrism reframes ego not as a liability or a vice, but as a pivot point, an anchor for higher functioning. Esocentrism is not about inflating the ego, nor about denying it, but working with ourselves in a different way, shifting the focus inwards in order to reconnect to something greater than ourselves. Relearning boundaries, for instance, by starting from the boundaries we put to ourselves. Building self-leadership before aspiring to lead others. Unlike narcissism and egocentrism, esocentrism allows us to see our own fallacies and shortcomings. We keep complaining, especially my generation, we keep complaining about, yet we keep raising a narcissistic generation that is entitled, that knows everything, and if they don't, they can Google it or ChatGPT it. And by doing so, we are robbing them from their innate capacity to dare, to dream, to overcome, to connect. So, can we escape from grandiosity, this inflated self-importance and entitlement, the belief that I deserve it even if I haven't worked for it? Through all the years of observation, I've come to one answer, which is what I call the esocentric principle. So, practicing connected humility and interdependence. There is a very simple exercise to do if you want to understand that. At any given time, you can close your eyes and think of 3 things you received from others. Big or small, it doesn't matter. 3 things, not that you achieved, but you depend on. It can be a smile, a service, roof over your head, or clean water. It can be anything. This practice, but look for these 3 actively every day. This practice requires entitlement into humility and connectedness. If we want to escape the narcissistic loop, we do not need more self-inflation. We need, though, to unlearn the ego and be more esocentric. And that starts with 3 simple choices. I promised you at the beginning 3 simple choices. Here we go. 1, choose wonder and imagination instead of Google. Next time you don't know, resist the reflex to take your phone and Google something. Pause for 60 seconds. Sit with the unknown. Let your curiosity breathe. Sleep on it. Journal it. Imagine possible answers. Brainstorm it with your friends. God forbid, ask another human being instead of asking ChatGPT. Replace passive compassion and validation seeking with creative, inward-driven expression. This is how we unlearn the ego's need to know and show and return to awe and originality. The ego seeks answers and applause. Wonder and imagination, they ask questions, they find solutions, they make art. The second choice is to choose risk instead of safety. The ego is what fears the imperfection. Esocentrism learns through imperfection. Step beyond the safety of your curated self. Say the things that feels real, not rehearsed. Say the thing that might not be liked, actually disliked. Try the idea that might bomb. Let yourself fail, get rejected, get hurt even, because that's where real growth is. That's how we remember we're alive. Take emotional and intellectual risks because it's the ego's armor of safety that keeps us small and apart. Courage is the quiet decision to keep going anyway. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's courage in motion. It's how we evolve. And the third choice I invite you to make is to connect, not perform. When you feel to disconnect into screens, choose one small action of connection. Call a friend. Call your parents. Smile at a stranger. Look at another person's eyes. Ask someone a genuine question. Reach out, not for validation, but for presence. Look up from your screen and listen without waiting to speak. An esocentric can truly be authentic because they don't need to perform for others. They are free to exist without curating for approval. And that's a great shift from am I liked to am I real? Am I contributing? Connection dissolves the ego because it reminds us that we belong, we're not alone, and we were never meant to do life alone. I started by saying that you're not that special. However, you do have the inherent right to live, to believe, to be loved, to fight, to be good or bad, to stand up or be broken, to think, to explore and imagine, or be numbed and indoctrinated, to connect or withdraw, to build or destroy, to love, care or hate, to live a narcissistic life or an esocentric one. In the words of my favorite poet, Rumi, you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop, and the choice is yours. Thank you.